During his talk with us last March, Ike Nassy, your classmate in the PhD computer science program at Stony Brook, stated that critical thinking and the skepticism to question anything that he wasn't sure of were very important attributes he learned at Stony Brook. What do you take away from your years of grad school there? How, in particular, did your experience at Stony Brook enable you to progress your career, or perhaps enable you to enhance your personal life?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, for me, I switched from an undergraduate major in electrical engineering. As I tell today's students, they don't believe it, but I tell them, when I was an undergraduate, there was no bachelor's degree program in computer science in the entire United States. So I started in EE because it was the closest thing you could do at the time. I switched to computer science. The first thing is, I realized that was a brilliant switch, because I loved it. I loved even the theory courses that I kind of gotten through in EE, but all of a sudden in computer science there was some alignment with my brain. I just loved it, and everything I took, I was I often say that was the happiest days of my life, because you're so focused on what you're doing, and if you're in the right subject or in the right area, it's really exciting. So I learned that. I learned how to do research, really working with my thesis advisor, Dick Kieberts, and then with Dave Smith, who was sort of my co-advisor on my work. I learned how to teach well by watching people who are good teachers and being a teaching assistant. I learned to write well, write a technical paper, which I can say when I arrived I did not know. Like a lot of engineers, I did not know how to write. I learned how to write, how to speak, how to make a great presentation. Those were critical issues, and I think I really learned those skills. I also learned how to be an avid bicyclist, which was good for my health at the time. I couldn't afford, I lived in Port Jefferson Station. We had no money, basically. I was married, but we didn't have a lot of money. So there was a bus that went, but the bus was really slow, and besides it cost like $1.25, something like that. So I would ride my bicycle, and my goal was to be able to ride up until Thanksgiving. So I put on a ski mask and everything, but it does keep you healthy, and that was a really good thing, and that was a habit I kept for many years until I decided that riding bicycles becomes a little unsafe if you try to do it in areas where there aren't good bike lanes.
Thank you for sharing your Stony Brook experience with our audience, John. You founded two successful startups in the 1980s and late 90s, MIPs, now owned by Imagination Technologies, and Atheros Communications, now part of Qualcomm. Why didn't you continue as a serial tech entrepreneur, like, for example, our friend John Chiaffi, who's left Stanford, now the CEO of ASIA Inc.? And what was it about Stanford that attracted you back there? Mm-hmm. And when you did come back, did you have any aspirations about moving into executive administration?
Good questions. So I loved starting a company and working with startup companies. I think a number of you have had this opportunity. It's thrilling to be at the forefront, to see a product go out, to see people buy it and use a product that you personally touched and contributed to. It is really thrilling. But I missed working with students. Fundamentally, that's what I decided I didn't want to give up. I had a lot of the venture capitalists come as close as they can to putting golden handcuffs on you, which make it hard to make that decision. But I had preconditioned it in my mind, and in fact, in the case of MIPS, we told the VCs that I was going back. So I just decided to do it, and I wanted to go back to my research and also think about what we're doing. That was also the time that Dave Patterson and I started brainstorming on our textbook that we thought really was necessary, a textbook that would sort of try to take computer architecture from something which was not very scientific or engineering based to something that was. So those were all motivations for me to go back. When I went back, I thought, I'm going to go back and teach. I had an ongoing relationship with MIPS at that time. So I would spend a day a week down there during the year and half time during the summer. But I never anticipated being an administrator. If you told me that I was going to become an academic administrator, more than running a lab or something, you know, which is a 25% time job, it's not that big a deal, I would have said, you're crazy. That's not what I want to do. So I am the proverbial, you know, you take the frog, you put him in a pot of boiling water, and you slowly turn the temperature up, and the frog starts cooking before he realizes it. That's me. I'm the frog that started cooking. And then, not that I've minded it. It's been a wonderful journey, and I've gotten to do really terrific things, but it wasn't my goal, certainly.
Thank you, John. Just to echo that point, as many of you know, I taught in graduate AA at Santa Clara University for 16 years, and I noted that it was very, very difficult for professors to move into management, including chair of the department. My own boss, Tim Healy, was not really successful as EE chair. So it's a tremendous accomplishment to be able to make that transition and switch.
Yeah, and the basic reason is it's not why people go to the university. They go to the university to be a teacher and a scholar, not to be a management. And you know, engineers have a hard time learning some of those people skills as it is, and then you take an engineer academic and they have an even harder time learning it. For me, the time I had in the Valley really changed my skill set, because it gave me a set of, I mean, we went through the kinds of things that startup companies go through. We had to do a layoff, right? And I was I was not the CEO, but I was the person the CEO asked to get up the day after the pink slip notices went out and inspire everybody about how this company was still going to be successful and great. Because the biggest thing when you do a layoff is, you know, your morale is shot unless you can kind of turn around and focus everybody on it. So that was a really great, you know, we came within, 10 days of being at net zero on cash. You know, so there were a lot of things you learn about how to make decisions. Yeah, it's a little scary, but you know, it makes it easier. Numbers come easy then once you've done some of that.
And I'm sure that contributed to your success as an administrator in Stanford, that managerial role at MIPs.